If you have ever felt this, if you have worked hard for a long time and still felt like you were not quite allowed to truly begin, if you kept waiting for a boss, a mentor, or the world itself to finally say, "You're ready now," you can start. If you were terrified of making a mistake, terrified of being exposed, terrified that the moment you stepped forward, everyone would realize you were never that impressive to begin with, then do not rush to call yourself weak. You are not lacking ability. You just handed your right to define your value over to other people far too early. In the commercial district of North Harbor, there was a major public showcase every autumn. Startups, tech firms, investors, consultants, and media all showed up. It was not just a launch event, it was more like a live pricing floor for human worth. Whoever spoke well got praised. Whoever looked composed got attention. Whoever stumbled watched their value drop in real time. Ethan attended that event for the first time when he was 30. At the time, he worked in product strategy for a fast-growing company. His salary was solid. His resume was strong. From the outside, it looked like he was already on a path most people would call successful. But only he knew the habit he was still living inside. Waiting for someone else to approve of him first. Waiting for someone with more authority to decide he was finally good enough. Waiting for some outside signal to prove he had earned the right to move forward. So he got very good at preparing, very good at polishing, very good at avoiding visible mistakes. And because of that, he rarely stepped forward and truly carried anything. That night, the showcase had reached its final session. The closing speaker was a famous young founder named Adrian. He looked right, sounded right, and knew exactly how to hold a room. The media loved him. Investors followed him. People said he had the kind of presence winners were born with. Ethan stood in the audience and watched the room go quiet the second Adrian stepped onto the stage. The lights hit him perfectly. The slides were clean. The opening lines were sharp. Everything looked like success unfolding exactly on cue. Until the 7th minute, the live demo failed. The system did not launch. The screen froze. The backup did not connect. Those few seconds of silence grew huge, like someone had suddenly torn a hole through the polished surface of the night. A low wave of movement passed through the crowd. Investors in the front row leaned toward each other. Someone in the back laughed under their breath. A few people quietly lowered the phones they had been using to record. Adrian tried to recover, but the harder he pushed, the more chaotic he became. His pace sped up. His explanations started breaking apart. A thin line of sweat appeared at his forehead. He looked like a man whose frame had been stripped out from under him, leaving only a well-dressed shell, trying not to collapse in public. Standing in the audience, Ethan felt his chest tighten, because he knew that fear. It was not just the fear of being wrong. It was the fear of being seen in the exact moment you stopped looking impressive. That was what he had been avoiding all along. Then, just as the room seemed ready to watch Adrian fall apart, someone stood up near the side control station. It was a woman. She wore a black coat, had short hair, and nothing on her that asked to be noticed. She was not the featured speaker. She was not even listed on the program. Most people had barely registered that she was there at all. But the moment she started walking toward the stage, the air in the room changed. Her name was Mara. She did not rush in to comfort Adrian. She did not make excuses for him either. She simply looked at the broken sequence on the control screen, picked up the microphone and said, "The system failed. The panic is real, but the problem is still not bigger than the people in it." Then she turned to Adrian. "Stop trying to prove yourself. Just answer one thing. Without this demo, what problem are you actually trying to solve?" Adrian froze for a second. Then he began to speak. This time it was not polished. It was not elegant. At moments it was messy. But for the first time since the failure, he stopped defending his image and returned to the actual problem. Mara stood beside him and only stepped in when he got lost, as if she were simply reconnecting wires that had come loose. 10 minutes later, the room had stabilized. No one clapped. There was no dramatic redemption. But everyone there had just witnessed something more important. Real steadiness is not never failing. It is being able to pull a situation back together after it breaks. When the event ended, most people went straight to Adrian. Some wanted details. Some wanted to reassure him. Some were already calculating how much this would damage his valuation. Ethan did not go to Adrian. He went looking for Mara. He found her near the back of the parking structure. standing beneath a narrow roofline and drinking water, as calm as if the collapse on stage had barely cost her anything. He asked her, "How were you that steady?" Mara looked at him for a moment and asked back, "What do you think confidence is?" Ethan thought for a second. "A kind of natural presence, I guess. A feeling that you're not afraid, that you don't lose control." Mara shook her head. "That's not confidence. That's performance." She dropped the empty bottle into a recycling bin. Real confidence is not a social posture. It is certainty that you can deal with reality. Not because you never fail, because even if you fail, you know you can rebuild order. That sentence stayed in Ethan's head for days, because he suddenly realized that what he had always wanted was not confidence at all. It was the appearance of confidence, and beneath that appearance was only the constant fear of being seen too clearly. A few days later, Mara invited him to breakfast. Not a fancy place, just a small shop that opened at 6 in the morning. Over toast and tea, she told him what she had been like at 9 years old. Thin as a nail, unable to look people in the eye. The kind of child no one would have predicted would one day walk into a collapsing room and steady it. Ethan asked how she became who she was now. Mara said it was not because she later became rich, and not because she learned how to speak well. It came from a choice. At one point in her life, someone put a large check in front of her. The terms were simple: take it, and the next few years would be safe. The price was that she would lose her future freedom to build what she actually wanted. At the time, I was not wealthy, she said, and I was not fearless. But I realized I was asking the wrong question. I stopped asking how attractive the check was. I started asking, if I refuse it, will I die? The answer was no. She still had a mind. She could still learn, still sell, still build again. When I stripped away everything external, what remained was my real asset. My value was not the check. It was whether I could create order again inside uncertainty. After that breakfast, Mara sent Ethan one short line: "Stop living as a noun." At first, he did not understand it. Then he started noticing how he described himself. Strategist, analyst, consultant, employee. A person in a title, a role in an org chart, a box that could be labeled and placed. And suddenly he understood. He had been using nouns to ask for safety, but real strength did not come from being well labeled. It came from being a verb, able to learn, able to break things down, able to judge, able to repair, able to make sense of what was complex. That was the real base. So he began moving his attention away from the question, "Do I look like someone impressive?" and toward a different one, "Am I actually building something that makes me irreplaceable?" That was when he started seeing the trap more clearly. If you play status games, trying to be richer, more admired, more decorated, more visibly successful than everyone else, you almost always lose eventually. It is a zero-sum game. Someone will always be ahead of you. But if you pour your time into your real specialization, the game changes. Specialization is not the standard form other people train you into. It is more like a seam of ore that grows out of curiosity and obsession. Once you start digging there, you begin building real advantage in one specific territory. At that point, confidence stops being motivational talk. It becomes something objective. Before he fully found that specialization, Mara told him he needed to build something more basic first. Confidence in learning, not because he already knew enough, because he trusted that given enough time, he could understand difficult things. Human beings are not fixed forever by their original wiring. They can rewrite their own systems through learning. That kind of confidence is not flashy, but it is deep, because it means that even if you lose a lot, you do not instantly become nothing. The foundation is still there, and if the foundation is still there, the structure can be rebuilt. The real turning point came 3 months later. Ethan was unexpectedly asked to step in and cover a presentation that had not originally been his. He had not prepared enough. Halfway through, he blanked on a key term. The old version of him would have panicked immediately. He would have tried to cover it, smooth it over, pretend nothing had happened. Instead, he paused and said, "I can't remember the exact term right now, but I do understand the mechanism, so let me explain it that way." The room went still for a moment. Then people kept listening. And in that moment, he understood something Mara had been trying to show him. Extreme honesty is a high form of confidence. If you do not know, say you do not know. If you forgot, say you forgot. The fragile thing is not making a mistake. The fragile thing is needing to hide every flaw because you believe one exposed weakness will collapse your whole identity. After that, Ethan began taking on more responsibility. Not because fear disappeared, because he realized that chronic insecurity is a luxury for people who are not truly carrying anything. Once you are actually responsible for something, you do not have much time left to endlessly evaluate whether you look perfect. You start thinking differently. What is the next move? What can be repaired? How do I stabilize this? One day, a project in his team went sideways and no one wanted to own it. Stepping forward meant attaching your name to public risk. Ethan stared at the file for a long time. Then he said, "I'll take it. If it goes badly, it's on me." It was not a heroic moment. His heart was racing. His hands were sweating. But strangely, once the words left his mouth, he felt calmer, because sometimes the deepest source of confidence is not success. It is the first moment you stop hiding. Later, he began to understand why some of the strongest people he had ever met were also the quietest. They were living by an internal scorecard. It was not that outside judgment no longer existed. It was that it no longer decided the final number. If you live inside other people's eyes, your inner life is always loud. Today, someone admires you. Tomorrow, someone forgets you. The next day, someone else looks more successful than you. That kind of life makes happiness difficult, because your worth keeps getting dragged around by an outside pricing system. But when you start asking only one question, did I actually live up to my own standard today? Something begins to loosen. That kind of freedom is not glamorous. It simply lets you say no to desires that are not really yours. No to rooms that do not fit you. No to expensive symbols that have nothing to do with your real life. Ethan slowed down after that. Not because he became less capable, because he stopped grabbing at everything. He understood that wealth is a product of compounding, and compounding is easily destroyed by insecurity. If you do not trust yourself, you keep digging the tree back up to check whether the roots are growing. Real patience is not just waiting, it is believing that what you are building deserves time on its side. Eventually, Mara gave him 4 simple practices. Take care of the body, do difficult things, tell the truth. Remember that you are not that important. The body is the ground floor. A weak, sleep-starved, overstimulated body constantly sends signals of threat into the mind. Difficulty builds more than muscle. It builds capacity. Truth reduces inner noise. The less you live by concealment, the more energy you get back. And the last one, strangely enough, was the gentlest. Realizing that no one will remember your name forever is not despair. It is release. If the outcome is not as sacred as you thought, then why not live one honest life on your own terms? A year later, Ethan returned to the showcase. Same lights, same crowd, same hunger in the room, same people still hoping to be priced by others. But this time, he did not feel that old pull. He finally understood that confidence is not what you own, not salary, not applause, not titles, not someone important patting you on the shoulder. Confidence is what you become. You take your authority back. You build real skill. You learn how to be honest, to take responsibility, and to stay standing after mistakes. You create an inner system that no longer needs other people to assign your value. And that kind of confidence is not loud. It does not need to prove itself. It feels more like a quiet force. In a time when old systems are weakening and new ground is opening everywhere, the people who matter most are not the ones best at pleasing everyone. They are the ones who can stand on self-ownership, real skill, honesty, and responsibility. Because confidence, in the end, is not an emotion. It is an architecture. Self-sovereignty is the foundation. Specialization is the structure. Truth and responsibility are the roof. When those start reinforcing each other, your life begins building its own flywheel. And from that point on, Ethan stopped asking other people whether he was allowed to begin. He started setting his own price. This is Otherworld Radio. Real confidence is not reaching a point where you never fail. It is knowing that even when you do not lose yourself.